oftentimes I will just come and I'll grab whatever is near me. It doesn't need to be a sketchbook or anything, but I'll have my notebook here and things that I'm working on at the church and whatever. And so as ideas come, I like to just sketch and start taking note of what I'd like to do. When I started coming up with the sketching out ideas and things like that, we want to come up with our theme slide. And so the design that I came to is settled on was this one: Fear the Lord, Deuteronomy 10, 12, 13. This was kind of the design I settled on. I'm not going to talk too long about this, but now when I'm starting to think about the stage, which is what I'm going to be showing you guys with this video, now it comes to the stage and what I can do with the stage. So I took a picture of our stage and I traced it all out in Illustrator. Nothing fancy, but this way I have a way to lay out stage designs, whether it's lighting or props, things that I build, any kind of stage set. This way I can, if I take this off, I could show you. So now you see this is basically the bare bones of our stage. And so this is what we're gonna do. And so basically I proposed to my pastor that I would just create this big, huge sign, basically like a big flat wall. I love to use styrofoam, sheets of styrofoam, preferably the 1.5 to 2 inch thick pieces, nice and sturdy. And so basically this is going to be those sheets are 4 feet by 8 feet. So I'm going to do 4 of them wide and 2 high, which would give me a 16 by 16 square. So I'm going to build a wooden frame in behind this, like a studded frame, like a wall almost, and then attach the styrofoam onto it. I'm going to try and tape the joints together. I emphasize the word tape. Emphasize the word try. I'm going to tape the joints and then paint it all white, and then I'm going to project using a projector and a laptop, project this onto the screen, and then I'll paint out the letters onto the giant wall. So that's the idea, that's the proposal. Then I'll just kind of roughly put out a list of the materials that I need. If I don't have them in our shop, then I will write it out. I'll propose the budget to our pastor. In this case, 550 is the higher end. I always like to round up because you might not have enough material, or it's a rough guess using like the Home Depot website. And again, Home Depot doesn't sponsor this, but I love going there. They're right down the street from our church. So 550 is kind of the proposed budget for this. And what's most important to me and even to our pastor is that the materials that I'm going to be using here, so I'm not going to be cutting these sheets. So when I'm done, I'll have 8 sheets of styrofoam, and I use styrofoam here a lot, as well as the wood that's going to be behind it. So anytime I can repurpose that wood and that material, that's extra money that's not going to have to be spent a month, 2 months from now. And as we head into Easter, the proposed idea is to hang some crosses from the ceiling. So I'm going to use the styrofoam from here to do that as well. So anytime I can repurpose, I totally do. And I go all the way down in our shop until we have absolutely nothing left before I start asking to spend more money. So, all right, so now we're standing here in the sanctuary on our stage. And so what I've done is I've done some measurements here. You can actually see the tape measure here. So I'll show you a wider shot of this and of what our stage actually looks like. But basically what I needed from this is to measure how tall it is to the ceiling, to the floor. Once I have that, so this is about 20 feet. So if you go up the step and then up the step, which is where I've shown you where I'm going to be setting the bottom of that wall, it's roughly about 17 feet of room I have. So 2 sheets of 8 by 8, 16 feet. It should sit in there very nicely. What I got to do now is I have to go over to Home Depot. The budget has already been approved, and I'm going to do my very best to come under that. I'd like to come under 500 for this project, and so I'm going to make my way over there, buy some materials, and then I'm going to start laying things out probably tomorrow, and we'll continue with this build at that point. All right, let's talk about materials and decisions as to why. So what you'll see right here are 2x4x12s. These are just regular 2x3x8s. And then we've got our foam here, 1.5 styrofoam. I know I need 8, but I could only fit 5 in the truck right now, so I'll go back for the other 3. And then I just picked up some supplies here. I'm gonna try and paint them all white, paint the letters black. And then some trays and stuff that we needed because we've run out of what we had. Now what I'm gonna try, which is new, is some sort of masking tape or something for the joints. Now, I'm going to be laying all of these out side by side and stacked on top of each other. I'm going to build the wall out of this lumber and then sheet it with this styrofoam. So I tried to get the pieces that corners were not damaged, everything's nice and straight. But what I've never done before is had them up and basically like you're drywalling a wall, right? And so with drywall, you would normally tape in mud and do on sand, all that stuff. But obviously I don't want to do drywall. That's too much, too expensive, too much work. And I'm just not interested in that. So like I said, DIY for life. I should get some shirts made. So I'm going to try. I'm just thinking masking tape because they don't have white masking tape, at least not the store I went to. So this is not green, it's not yellow. I figure a couple coats of paint should cover that. And that's masking tape. So I know the finish on it is not going to be like glossy like duct tape. So which this is. Now, I got this. I've never used this before. I don't know what to expect, but obviously it's white, so I might not have to use as much paint when covering all the joints. And I'll explain that more once we start doing that. Now the lumber. So I chose to go with, which I normally don't do, these ones 2x4s by 12s. And that's because I know my wall is going to be 16 feet high. So I figure 12, but the van that we use is not long enough to get 14s in. So 12 should be more than enough. Styrofoam is not heavy. So I'll build the back risers behind the sheets with those. And then I'm going to use these as the 2x8s for 2x3x8, sorry. I'll use those as cross braces and supports. And that should be more than enough as far as rigidity to hold it up like a wall. So we'll see how that goes. The material choices as well, you know, the 2x4, the dimensional lumber from in this case, Home Depot. Again, not sponsored, but that's probably my favorite store on earth, outside of maybe a pizza shop. I'm trying to do this on a budget, as little as possible spent, and I'm not trying to get top quality. So for example, the lumber is dimensional lumber. It's like studs and things like that for framing basements and walls and whatever. It's not the straightest material, it's not the best condition, but I'm hiding it all behind things, and as long as the stuff in front of it looks good, I don't care about what it looks like in behind it. Dimensional lumber, it's cheaper, and so that's why I go with that. And you'll see some examples, I'm sure, of what the things I've got to compensate when dealing with that kind of material. So this will be like just a part-time gap filler. I can stand on it. I won't say how big I am. I'm heavy, 6'8". You can do the math. And it holds me up there. So spread out across the weight of the stage or the length of the stage, the weight won't be a problem. It's just styrofoam and 2x4s. So that should be plenty sturdy enough. And then because our stage is all wood carpeted with plywood underneath, I'll be able to screw these boards straight into the stage as well, so they won't move left or right. Okay, so now that I got my platform in there in the back, what I'm just looking at right now is, one, how tall this is. So 2 sheets stacked on top of each other, obviously, 16 feet, 8x8. But my main concern was the joint. I don't want it to be tremendously visible. It's hard to tell too with the green on it, so I think I'll remove the green or a strip of it, but you can see the joint right there. Maybe it helps to go to the side. Yeah, see the joint there. So I've removed about 1 inch or so, and you can see a little bit of a shadow there from where the styrofoam has probably been dented. But as you back away, I mean, that seemed pretty inconspicuous. And I mean, my hand is only maybe 5-6 feet away from the boards, and you can already see it disappearing. So I don't know, I'm pretty happy with that. And obviously from a distance, the further you move back, I mean, very hard to see that seam. I mean, I can see it, and if the lights shine the right way, you're definitely gonna see it. So I'm gonna have to make a call here if I want to keep building this, because it's a lot of work to put these up. And if I don't like it already, think. So as you'll recall, this was my initial thought to put this up, but again, there's too much things to do. I've only got a day and a bit to do this, so maybe 2 days to do it, and it's just gonna cause too much of a problem. So I think what I'm gonna do is just shrink it down a little bit. This also allows, we have a cross, if you remember I showed you there, we have a cross in the baptismal tank, so the cross still shows. I don't have to relocate that, and this still covers a wide spread of the stage, so I think it'll still create enough of an impact. So I think this is what I'm gonna do. It's gonna require a little bit less styrofoam. I'm thinking maybe I'll do, since I have the pieces, maybe to do the letters in 3D, like cut them out of styrofoam and put them on top of the other styrofoam. We'll see how it goes, but I think this is going to be a good compromise. I don't need as much support in behind, and it's still going to create that full stage look. Now that I've switched things up a little bit, I'm beginning to attach some supports for the styrofoam to lean up against. And so this, what I've done is, you can see the small one there, but what I've done is attached a larger piece of wood just for better support in behind the styrofoam. It's gonna sit 4 feet high, so obviously this thing is only like 12 inches. That's not gonna be enough, so all I'm doing is just screwing in another piece to the front, using the level to make sure it's as flat as possible all the way up. Okay, so I got my braces all connected to the stage, all various heights. Height doesn't matter as long as it's shorter than 4 feet. You'll also notice that they are all not, if you look at the top of them, you can start to see how crooked, like that board right there is. You can see, for the most part, it's in line and level. Because of the thickness of the styrofoam, that's not gonna matter too much because the styrofoam is pretty rigid. However, on a board like this second one here, where you can see, so at the bottom, they might be all lined up, but up here, it's definitely not lined up. So what we'd probably end up doing is just putting a couple shims down the front of this thing. All right, so I just use, a little rinky-dinky, can't believe it just said rinky-dinky. I just use a little X-Acto knife to score some lines in there. So you can take your time and do this slowly. Now you can start seeing where I made the line there. So as I've put these up, I'm still got some pieces to connect there, but I put this middle piece up first, and maybe I should have started from the side and worked my way over, but I started with the middle piece. It lines up pretty good. The pieces are, you could see I don't have much room over there, so exactly 24 feet. But what I've found is that the seams are straight. As you can see, they're not exactly lining up. It's a little bit better down there than it is up here. And then when I had the other sheet in there to test, this corner was low. So this corner here was too low. So that means if I raise this up, it'll close the gap over there and then level it with the piece here. All right, so there's my solution. It ain't pretty, but in the back, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's secure, just gotta secure those. You remember I said this one earlier was probably going to be a problem, and it is. So I could have used a straighter piece of wood, but no problem. I could still tape that in there. It's just going to be support to hold it up for now. But there's the solution right there. All right, so there's my wall built. All my supports in, nice and relatively straight. As straight as you can make styrofoam. Not too shabby. Now on to putting the letters on. So this is my setup for tracing the letters onto the styrofoam itself. And so I use a projector here on a stand connected to my laptop. Then you hit the lights and you start tracing. And so this is all by freehand. I don't use a ruler or anything like that. I just trace it with a Sharpie. I knew I was going to paint the letters in black, so you can go ahead and trace it all out and not have to worry about what it looks like. And you'll see here after I'm done tracing, the A is missing because it's all straight lines. So figured it would be faster to just use dots. So you can't see the dots in this picture, but I just put dots and I'll trace it, or I'll connect all the dots in the shop with the level. All right, so I went over what I've traced with my straight edge and straightened up the lines as much as possible. And now I'm just cutting these things out of the styrofoam, just cutting them down letter per letter, and then I'll go in with detail. Gotta love the trusty jigsaw. This is just a little old school jigsaw. It's light. You want to do a fine tooth blade on there to make the cuts as nice as possible. Well, that was fun. All right, we're gonna paint up the letters now. Not sponsored, but this is just a cheap gallon of paint here. Got my letters here. I got all my plastic laid out because I certainly don't want to damage our pews with paint. And I'm gonna start painting the letters here. And let's see how this goes. 1 down, 8 to go. Okay, so now I'm starting to attach some things to the wall. What I'm doing is I'm just using some nice long smooth nails. They push through the styrofoam really well. I've marked the middle of the board, and so I work out from there. And now I'm just gonna attach the D over there to get that end. It's supposed to say fear the Lord, if you remember. And so I'll put the F over there. This is the middle. It actually looks really good in 3D. I'm glad I did it in 3D and not painted it on. And so basically you're just pinning this to the wall. You won't be able to see, but there's a nail right here at the top of the H, and then you just use this nail, put it on the head, and then you push it into the styrofoam to kind of bury it. And then from far away, I mean, you can't tell at all. So I could take my middle nail out, and I'm gonna keep on going here. Painter's tape installed, give me a 5-inch line all the way across, and so now I can hang up the rest of my letters here. Just eyeballing it, doesn't have to be perfect. If someone comes to me and says it's not perfectly spaced, then I'll invite them to come do the job for me next time. And there you have it, guys. That's basically the sign finished right there. I think it looks fantastic. You'll see it here with our lights, and I added the cross there, also styrofoam, cleaned up the stage. I'm so glad I did it in 3D letters and I didn't paint it on. It looks so much better. I'm really, really happy with the way it turned out. And here's a look on our stage on a Sunday morning. So obviously we're not coming in at the $500 mark here for materials and cost, but I'd say using all 5 sheets, which I did, plus the paint, at this build here, you're probably looking around the $250 range or less, probably under that. All the lumber will go into our inventory. Obviously, I didn't use it to build the wall. All the tape that I bought, I didn't use that. maybe the paint trays and rollers and things like that, yeah, you're probably around the $250 range. So that's not bad for what this sign has turned out to be, and I'm glad. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and hopefully you guys uh, learned something here. And if there's anything I can do to help with showing with the way I do things and how I do it, I'm glad to do that. So this is truly a joy and a passion of mine to serve this way in my church, but also just to build and to be able to create things from scratch. And so hope you guys appreciated it. Any questions or anything like that, feel free to comment or any of those kinds of things, and just stay tuned for the next one. Appreciate you guys. And now, the mess. Help me, Lord.